not generally appreciated how important to the British effort during World War II was the contribution made by Chinese sailors. By 1939, over 20,000 of the deckhands, firemen and boilermen on board the merchant ships of the Blue Funnel Line were Chinese. These sailors were encouraged to serve in the Navy by the British government, who urgently required sailors for these ships to transport food, medical supplies and ammunition to the fighting troops in Europe. These ships were frequently targeted by German U-boats. As a result, hundreds of Chinese sailors were killed. These valorous young men suffered incredible hardship and gave their lives to the British war effort. It is therefore a damning indictment of British history that their valiant heroism is so rarely acknowledged in the official documentation of the period. These sailors initially took up residence in Liverpool, primarily in Upper Pitt Street, renting flats and houses. Those who survived after the war returned to their homes, and most of these sailors purchased these dwellings. Many more also married English women and raised children. They were given to believe they could live in Britain in return for their services rendered during the war. However, over a period of 2 days, which commenced from the 18th of June 1946, precisely 4,931 Chinese sailors were forcibly evicted from their homes during the night. They were apprehended in public bars, dragged off the streets and hauled out of shops wherever they could be found. A transport company called O'Neill was responsible for these massed evictions. These were later justified by a Liverpool council document that claimed the sailors were gamblers and used prostitutes. In fact, this ludicrous assertion was later discovered to be spurious. What if it had been true? Would that have negated their valiant service during the war? These sailors were rounded up, planted in rowing boats, often at gunpoint, and transferred to naval vessels anchored in international waters. In this manner, the Chinese sailors were denied recourse to UK legal representation, and so were unable to defend themselves against this obscene, barbaric treatment. They were ultimately obliged to return to China. Some of their homes in England were reclaimed illegally back to Liverpool Council. Others were sold, also illegally, to private property developers. No financial recompense or other form of compensation has ever been awarded to a single one of these Chinese merchant sailors or any of their UK relatives, even though their marriages were legal and bestowed upon them certain basic rights in accordance with British law. Their deportation and the theft of their property contravened over a dozen British laws. To this day, no investigation has ever been conducted into this shameful incident. Just as black Americans were considered the best friends of Uncle Sam when they were required to accompany their white compatriots to go to Vietnam in the 1960s and brutally murder our friends and relatives, so those Chinese sailors were welcomed warmly by John Bull while the war lasted, but were soon forgotten, discarded as an embarrassment once peace reigned.